Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 105 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
And today is our 2-year podcast anniversary.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for listening. For 2 whole years we've been doing this.
Indeed. Thank you. And happy anniversary, Pooks.
Yeah, hey, we did it.
We did.
I think we've improved.
Yeah.
And here's to 2 more years.
Well, I mean, I don't really like listening to the early episodes. I think they sound a little awkward and...
Of course they do.
Well, yes, of course they do. So I would say, yes, we've definitely gotten better over the past 2 years.
They're a little cringy.
Well, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say cringy. No, not cringy, just a little stilted.
Yeah. But everyone's their own worst critic, so...
True.
They're probably and hopefully not as cringy to other people as they are to us.
Well,
so
I don't think they're cringy, so they're only cringy to you.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way.
We did.
So yeah, happy 2-year podcast anniversary.
Indeed.
This weekend, we celebrated another milestone, Sam's birthday, which is actually not until Wednesday.
Yes.
But we did a combined birthday party with Sam and my nephew Trey, and we had a little picnic.
We did.
Yeah.
We had a little picnic, and actually turned into a combined birthday party for me, our nephew Trey, and for Christine as well.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be. My birthday's in July, okay? It's September, people. We're not celebrating my birthday.
It is, but it's like Linda said. She's, just combining all of the summer birthdays.
Yeah, that's what the plan is
into
now.
one party, and then we'll have another party for the winter birthdays.
Which I love that.
I like it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one person isn't like the focus. It's just, it's just a get together and we're celebrating multiple people in the family. I think that's a really great idea.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. So,
yeah.
Fantastic new tradition.
Yeah. So we made lots of vegan food.
Yeah, we did. Well, you did.
And vegan fun. We made Impossible burgers.
Yep.
Yeah, I made Impossible burgers on the grill. They were pretty good.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, they're always pretty good. And what else did we make? I made a big green salad.
With
tons of stuff in it.
You made a lovely pesto mac and cheese.
I made a pesto mac and cheese.
And, of course, the panzanella salad.
I made a panzanella salad. And all of this was not only vegan, but gluten-free, because we have some gluten-free people in the family.
Yes, we do.
We have some vegan, gluten-free people.
Yes.
So if you find it hard to feed vegans...
Vegan and gluten-free is definitely
it's harder.
An even greater challenge.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
But it all turned out.
It did. It was beautiful.
It was. We got some wonderful vegan bread from our local bakery, Om Nom, from our friend Jessamine over at Om Nom Gluten-Free Bakery.
Yep.
And we also got from her some vegan and gluten-free
Mayan moon pies.
Yeah, little Mayan moon cakes. They're so good.
Yes, so good. These, honestly, ridiculous. So what this is, it's a little round of chocolate cake with this incredible ganache over it. And the flavor profile is, of course, very, very dark chocolate, but then it kind of is broken up with orange and cinnamon, and it's just... so beautiful.
They're really good. Yeah, so instead of getting a big old cake, which when we do that, we always have tons of leftovers.
We always end up with tons of cake.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you say that you went downstairs into our basement freezer and found wrapped up pieces of chocolate cake?
There's chocolate cake in our freezer from, I don't even remember what celebration.
I don't remember the last time we made chocolate cake.
I don't think we made it. I think it was bought chocolate cake.
Oh, so maybe it was the birthday party last year.
Could have been. Who knows? Anyway, that probably needs to go.
I'm thinking so, yeah.
What else do we have? Oh, we had some vegan ice cream with that.
Yes.
Some cookies and cream vegan ice cream.
Which was really nice to kind of cut the sweetness of the cake.
Yeah.
Yep. It was really refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was about it. Just lots of snacks, veggies and hummus and chips and guac and all of that yummy stuff.
I had some crackers and that vegan Boursin cheese, which I love so much.
Yep.
And a good time was had by all.
Yeah. It was a lovely afternoon. So thank you, Pookie, for putting all that together.
Oh, it was my pleasure. The weather was perfect.
It was.
It was just like high 60s and sunny and beautiful, breezy. It was nice.
Yeah, couldn't have asked for a better day.
We couldn't have. And we wouldn't have. So that's what we've been up to. You have anything else you want to talk about as far as what we've been up to recently?
No.
Since last Tuesday?
No.
No?
No, I think that about covers it.
So, okay, so I guess we'll just move on and let you know where we are going to be next.
Well, this weekend, and I'm super excited for this, is Syracuse Vegfest, Saturday, September 23rd. We will be in Syracuse at the Vegfest. And in addition to having our usual kind of vendor booth, like we do at other regional veg fests, we will also be moderating a panel at 3:00 that afternoon with some local vegan dignitaries.
I bet they would be really, really interested to hear that we call them dignitaries. But yes, some wonderful people from the vegan community in Central New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we'll be moderating a panel for them, just asking them some questions and getting their take on the vegan scene in Central New York.
Yeah.
And that'll be Vegfest.
Yeah, no, it should be a really great panel. And there's a lot of other great speakers and presenters going on. There's a musician, I think, playing later in the day. And it's in a new place. It's at the Inner Harbor in Syracuse.
Yep.
Which should be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
We really are.
Yeah.
So that's this weekend. And then next weekend, we will be in Panama Rocks for the Foliage Fest, and that's September 30th and October 1st.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping the weather holds because it's just going to be gorgeous up there.
It's really pretty this time of year up there. Yeah. I don't know if the leaves will be changing or anything by then, but...
Well, it's a bit like kind of north and like at higher elevation than it is here. So I'm thinking... Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking, yeah?
I'm thinking that the leaves will be a little further along than they are here, which would just be amazing.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yep. And we've been keeping an eye on the weather for Syracuse, and it looks like it's going to be pretty perfect.
So far, knock on wood, it looks like it's going to be nice. Last week I looked, and it was supposed to be like 80. I'm like, oh, no. It shouldn't be 80. Does it have to be 80 every time we're at a Veg Fest? But now I looked today, and it's saying 70. So
that's awesome.
Who knows? In a couple of days, that could also change.
It could.
And as long as it doesn't rain, even if it rains, we have a tent.
We do.
It's not terrible, but I'm hoping that it doesn't rain just because it's easier for people to come out and enjoy.
Sure.
So, yeah, let's hope that we have good weather for both of those events.
Yep. Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. And while we were talking about the Panama Rocks Foliage Fest, I wanted to remind people to go to Etsy and follow your Etsy site because...
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're going to be vending at the Fall Foliage Fest.
Right, because Panama Rocks, that Foliage Fest is not a vegan event. So we're going to be doing predominantly Cucumber Craftworks vending there. Whatever stock that I have right now that we do not sell between Syracuse Veg Fest and the Panama Rocks Foliage Fest will be posted on my Etsy site in the very near future. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah, give it a follow. It's Cucumber Craftworks.
Did we say
that? Did we say that?
I think so.
We don't have a recipe this week, a recipe of the week this week because of the picnic and all that jazz.
Right. Especially because, you have a picnic. The next thing you need to do is eat leftovers.
Yeah, we had so many leftovers. And then we even gave leftovers away and we still had leftovers.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's been pushed, which I'm kind of glad it's being pushed because this week would have been a cookbook challenge recipe. And I'm waiting for our friend Fraser, who is releasing another e-cookbook.
Oh.
Later this week.
Oh, that's great.
So I want to cook something out of it.
Cool.
So that will probably be next week's, depending on how much we have to say about Syracuse Veg Fest. If we have time, I'll squeeze a recipe in.
That sounds awesome.
But, we'll get to it eventually.
Sure will.
Yeah. So no recipe this week. Sorry to disappoint you. So that means we'll just jump right into things and start out with our noteworthy section. And in our noteworthy section, we wanted to pay a little tribute to sculptor Lin May Saeed. She is a sculptor and animal activist, and she recently passed from brain cancer. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about her because her work is really interesting, and she's been a fabulous voice for animal liberation in the arts scene. And before we tell you a little bit about Lin May Saeed, if you're not familiar with her and her work, I wanted to read a quote of hers, which I think is really cool. And the quote goes like this: Fables have always fascinated me, or even stories in which animals as protagonists critique power. Fables articulate the possibility of an alternative relationship between humans and animals. I thought that quote was really interesting.
Oh, it's lovely.
So Lin May Saeed is a sculptor and makes drawings, and she was born to a German mother and an Iraqi father who had fled his homeland. She studied at the Dusseldorf Art Academy and founded an exhibition space in Berlin in 2003. At home and abroad, she exhibited a lot, both solo and in groups. As a child, she saw pictures of animal experiments that never disappeared from her retina. She became aware of what was at the root of animal suffering, speciesism, or the superior attitude of humans towards animals. Saeed became an activist during her studies, and the subjugation of animals is one of the core themes in her sculpture. However, there is no screaming engagement. It is Lin May Saeed's dream that people will no longer kill animals for consumption so that she can also freely call herself human. She conveys her moral message in a disarming, almost naive style. Her animal figures have nothing human about them, despite the use of styrofoam, mostly construction waste, toxic and non-degradable. Her sculptures almost look like classical statues carved from marble. It sounds contradictory, but it also reminds the viewer of the human impact of the use of materials on the environment.
In a memorial article published in Art in America by a longtime friend of Lin May Saeed's, Emily Watlington, she says, Lin's grace and kindness were infectious. Somehow she was so gentle and also a total badass at the same time. One of my favorite pieces by her is The Liberation of Animals from Their Cages, 19. It's a metal gate, but instead of a grid or chain link pattern, steel strips form the outline of a masked figure carrying a pig through the broken cage while pliers lie at their feet. It's a triumphant image of refusal. I aspire to be the person she's depicting.
Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of pay tribute to the life cut way too short of sculptor Lin May Saeed and thank her for her dedication and her work. And I will include some links if you want to check out some of her work and what it represented.
Yeah, it really is stunning.
Her drawings are also stunning. And like that other article said, there's almost this like naive aspect about them, and they're not scream in your face.
Right.
Animal liberation art. It's not scream in your face like that. It's more of kind of stop and make you think kind of thing where she combines animal parts and human parts into like these almost like she says, almost like creatures from a story or something that are like part man, part animal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to our main topic. And this week's main topic is, can we ever end factory farming? This topic came up when I was reading an article by Peter Singer, and the title of the article was "Half a Century of Animal Liberation is Not Enough."
Now, the animal liberation being referenced in the title is, of course, Peter Singer's book of the same name, which was published in 1975, but with a new edition published earlier this year. So really, this is Peter Singer taking a look at his earlier writing and kind of taking stock of where the animal liberation movement is 50 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the primary things that Singer looks at in this article, among others, is the fact that far from animal liberation becoming a reality 50 years after the publication of his original book, it seems that the subjugation of animals as food products is actually getting worse. Certainly, we all know that there's been an increase in the production of factory-farmed animals since the 1980s, but it seems that right now, in 2023, the animal agriculture industries are coming up with even more ways to pack animals in and produce as many of them as they can at a time. For example, there is a company in China who has built the single largest single building pig farm in the world.
Yeah, and this is supposedly the first of many that are in the works in China.
This is sparking a lot of things, not only outrage from the animal rights, animal liberation community, but also it's sparking fears of further pandemics, as experts warn that it could easily be a breeding ground for disease. The skyscraper in question is 26 stories high, and it's located in Ezhou, which is about 80 kilometers from Wuhan, which is, of course, the origin point of the COVID-19 pandemic. The skyscraper will meet the demand for pig meat, as China consumes half of the world's pork. And the facility has the space and tools to slaughter up to 1.2 million pigs per year.
That's frightening. That's a frightening number.
Yes.
Isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. And if you see, and maybe you've already seen pictures of this facility and what will be future facilities in China, they're very innocuous. Innocuous, is that the right word?
I don't know. What are you going for?
They're very unassuming.
Yes, then innocuous was correct.
Office building-like looking structures.
In that case, innocuous was perfect.
Okay.
Excellent word choice.
So further hiding the horrors of what's happening in factory farming, that people will just be driving by or walking by, and a lot of them will have no idea what's going on, that there's 26 stories of pure hell going on in this building.
That's right.
And not to be kind of doom and gloomish, but we're going in the wrong direction, right?
It certainly seems that way.
We are going in the wrong direction as far as what's happening with animal agriculture. Instead of trying to find ways in which to consume less animals, we're trying to find ways in which to consume more of them.
Yeah.
Which is it's a scary trend.
It is.
You know?
Certainly. So the question becomes, is there anything that can be done?
Right. Okay, so kind of in that same vein is an article that comes from foodandwaterwatch.org. It's an article titled, "It's Time to Stop the Monopolies That Are Endangering Our Food Supply and Ecosystem. Factory farms pollute the environment and our drinking water, ravage rural communities, and harm the welfare of animals while increasing corporate control over our food. Factory farming is an unsustainable method of raising food animals that concentrates large numbers of animals into confined spaces. Factory farms are not compatible with a safe and wholesome food supply. It's time to ban them."
So continuing with foodandwaterwatch.org, we're looking at waste from factory farms and how that is an environmental and public health crisis. We've spoken about this a little bit in previous episodes, particularly regarding contamination of vegetables due to runoff from factory farms.
Yeah, we talked about that in our poisoned review.
That's right.
Yeah.
But for several decades, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and state governments have failed to regulate the environmental impacts of factory farms. When factory farms operate virtually unregulated, the environment and nearby rural communities pay the price. The vast quantities of manure from factory farms can and do make their way into the local environment where they pollute air and water. Several municipal water systems in the Midwest must regularly implement costly cleanup techniques to remove factory farm pollution from the water supply in order to avoid public health disasters. Likewise, pollution from factory farms runs off into streams that feed into our major waterways like the Chesapeake Bay, the Great Lakes, and the Gulf of Mexico, contributing to algal blooms and dead zones that impact drinking water supplies, aquatic ecosystems, recreation, and people's livelihoods. Small diversified farms that raise animals alongside other crops have always used manure as fertilizer without polluting water. The difference with factory farms is scale. They produce so much waste in one place that it must be applied to land in quantities that exceed the soil's ability to absorb it as fertilizer. Small and medium-sized independent farms are able to meet the demand to feed the population, but that won't remain the case if megacorporations are allowed to keep stomping them out of existence.
Yeah, and while we, of course, advocate for no animal farming, you have to think of things at least at the current time that we're living in reasonable ways, right? How do we reasonably prevent another pandemic? How do we reasonably prevent the
expansion of the animal agriculture
industry?
the
Expansion of the agriculture industry and the decimation of the planet that we're living on.
That's right. Now, Food and Water Watch offers some ideas. And the first is to enact federal legislation in several areas. First, to stop the growth of factory farms. A handful of state legislatures have introduced factory farm moratoriums in recent years, and the movement is growing. But to enact systemic change, we need a national moratorium on all new and expanding factory farms. Models for federal legislation include the Farm System Reform Act, introduced by Senator Cory Booker and Representative Ro Khanna. The FSRA would immediately ban all new large factory farms and the expansion of existing ones, and would phase out existing large factory farms by 2040. Moreover, the FSRA would invest in a just transition by creating a $10 billion buyout program for factory farm operators to pay off debt, an obstacle for farmers wishing to exit contract growing, or to transition to more sustainable systems, such as pasture-based livestock or specialty crops. Notably, this funding would only be available to farmers for projects on land they own, which ensures that corporate giants that created the problem do not pocket the funds.
Yeah, and while that's all good, we all know that pasture-based livestock is not a good model either.
Not environmentally speaking,
no.
Especially
on a grand scale.
Yes.
It just requires more land use, more resource use, and causes more environmental damage than typical factory farming does.
In addition, they recommend federal legislation that stops the further consolidation of the food industry. The COVID-19 pandemic makes hitting the pause button on mega mergers all the more critical to ensure that agribusinesses do not use the pandemic recovery to buy out struggling competitors and further entrench market power. Federal lawmakers are targeting agribusiness consolidation. This includes Senator Cory Booker and Representative Mark Pocan's Food and Agribusiness Merger Moratorium and Antitrust Review Act. The legislation would enact a moratorium on all agribusiness and grocery mega mergers and create a commission to recommend steps to strengthen antitrust and merger rules and enforcement. The moratorium would be in place until Congress passes comprehensive legislation to address market consolidation in the agribusiness sector. And finally, they suggest to end discrimination within the USDA programs and support farmers of color. Black farmers faced disproportionately higher rates of farmland loss throughout the 20th and early 21st centuries. This was accelerated by systemic racism within federal agencies like the USDA. Legislation like the Justice for Black Farmers Act, introduced by Senators Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, and Kirsten Gillibrand, seeks to end discrimination by establishing an independent civil rights board to review reports of and appeals to civil rights complaints filed against the USDA. It would also create a number of initiatives to address Black farmer land loss, including creating a land trust to provide the next generation of Black farmers with land and resources to farm. There are also suggestions by foodandwaterwatch.org to overhaul the federal farm safety net, including reinstating federal supply management for commodities, requiring farmers to implement organic practices in order to participate in safety net programs, and to expand coverage for more crops that directly feed people rather than crops that go to feed livestock. And finally, they suggest redirection of public funding to support organic and regenerative agriculture, increasing funding for regenerative practices, developing climate-resilient seeds and livestock breeds, making them publicly available, and to reject false solutions and close conservation loopholes that fund factory farms.
Now, that information is actually from 2021. Senator Booker has been trying to get this Farm System Reform Act through Congress for the last 2 to 3 years. And it keeps dying on the floor. So there is a current Farm System Reform Act of 2023 It's a very similar bill. The bill is S.271, if you want to look it up at congress.gov. And it does place a moratorium on large concentrated animal feeding operations, expands country of origin labeling, and expands requirements in the livestock, poultry, and meat markets. Specifically under the bill, a large animal farm may not commence or expand operations, and after January 1st, 2041, may not continue to operate. And once again, the bill is stalling. It was introduced in the Senate on February 2nd, 2023, and there hasn't been an action on this bill since then. So they just keep shuffling it to the bottom of the pile.
Right.
Every year it gets, it gets changed and amended and talked about and then shuffled to the bottom of the pile. Yeah. So what we're recommending is you contact your representatives and tell them that you are aware that S-271 is stuck at the 118th Congress at the bottom of a pile of bills, and that it's important to you that it make it to the top of the pile and that something be done.
Yes.
To move this bill forward in the process.
Absolutely.
And like I said, you can go to congress.gov and just type in the search Farm System Reform Act and kind of follow what's going on with it. Because like I said, it was introduced in February and it was read twice, referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, and then nothing happened. And that's happened for 3 straight years.
Yeah.
It's gone nowhere.
Well, that's what tends to happen when controversial legislation heads to committee.
Yeah.
Committees will just stall it.
Yeah. Now,
for as long as possible.
And Senator Booker, he does have a lot of support on this bill from some of his fellow legislatures.
Sure.
But there's a lot of backlash against the bill also.
Well, of course there is, because you're talking about essentially dismantling a immensely profitable monopoly.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So of course there's going to be backlash.
Yeah.
Of course there's going to be opposition.
But these are things that need to be happening, not expansion, not 26-story pig farms.
I couldn't agree more.
I mean, I know that's not happening in our country, but...
Yet?
Yeah, exactly. Yet. If something doesn't happen to curtail the growth of the animal agriculture industry, that's where we're headed.
It's entirely possible.
Because we're running out of space. We're running out of land, first of all, to put large factory farms on. It's the next step, right? These giant buildings
they'll
be in city centers,
Yeah.
They'll be like in New York City. They'll be skyscrapers.
Well, of course.
Filled with suffering animals.
Yes.
It's just dystopian.
It's completely dystopian.
Yeah.
But I mean, almost as soon as you said they'll be in city centers, I just went, yeah. And think about that. How much cities will be able to cut down on the costs of shipping, of, actually moving animals from place to place. What if, these skyscrapers not only have the factory farms, but the slaughterhouses built right in? Oh,
I'm sure they will.
They don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What if there are breeding centers right inside?
Yeah, the one in China does. It's a one-stop operation.
So yes, that could very easily be where we're going. And yes, it's dystopian and terrifying.
It is. Yeah. So contact your legislature, and let them know that you're aware that these bills are sitting there and that you want something done.
Yes. About
it, because it's not we're going down a bad road here.
Potentially.
Yeah. And we, especially as vegans, I think see the future a little more clearly than a lot of other people. So I think it's really important to try and open people's eyes to how badly this could go if we continue down this road.
Yeah.
So talk to people about it, ask people, hey, have you seen that 26-story pig farm in China? The facility that can slaughter up to 1.2 million pigs?
Every year?
Every year? That's in the middle of a city? Mm-hmm. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What if that happened in your city or in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
How would you feel about that,
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's a good way to start some conversations about it and make people maybe open their eyes a little bit to...
It's a conversation starter if ever there was one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like I said, it's not all doom and gloom. We do have people out there like Cory Booker. There's a lot of great animal activists. The AFA, there's a lot of great organizations that are talking to people that can make changes, systematic changes or systemic changes that can maybe stop this from going as badly as it possibly can.
Yes. But they do, of course, need our support.
They need our support. They need to know where we stand, and we need to rally behind anybody that's fighting for these issues. And that's a good way to segue into our reason to be vegan.
So if you listened last week, you know that we are currently pulling our reasons to be vegan from the humaneleague.org and their list of 23 reasons to go vegan in 2023. Now, in honor of the 26-story pig farm that is going to be constructed or is being constructed in China,
it has been, yeah.
Or has been constructed in China, I give you reason number 5. Gestation crates. Gestation crates rank alongside battery cages as one of the most heartless ways to treat animals. A pregnant pig, known as a sow, is forced into one of these cages for the duration of her nearly 4-month-long pregnancy. In this tiny, coffin-like crate, all she can do is sit, stand, and eat. In fact, gestation crates are so small that she can't walk at all, visit her neighbors, as her social instincts would encourage, or even turn around. Imagine the mind-breaking boredom and pain of being forced to remain in exactly one spot for months on end, notably while pregnant. After she gives birth, a mother pig will be impregnated again, repeating the cycle until she is sent to slaughter when she's no longer fit to bear babies. At that point, she's just 1.5 to 2 years old. No bacon is worth her tortured life.
Gestation crates are, they're just such a terrible thing.
Yes, and I actually am going to give just a little bit more information on gestation crates. Gestation is another way to refer to the period when an animal is pregnant before giving birth. A sow is pregnant for almost 4 months before the arrival of her babies. For humans, pregnancy can be an exciting and momentous time as families prepare and anticipate the joy of welcoming a new life into the world. However, imagine if a mother was kept in a cage barely bigger than her body for most of her pregnancy, unable to walk or move more than a few steps, unable even to turn around, able to interact only with the 2 mothers on either side of her who are also caged. Imagine if her water came spouting from dirty pipes at the front of this cage, with a food trough below. Imagine floors slatted to allow excrement to flow downwards before collecting in vast outdoor lagoons. Factory farms imprison mother pigs in these conditions for the entirety of their 4-month pregnancies. Gestation crates enclose pigs in a space of about 7 feet by 2 feet, an area barely larger than the pig's body. A mother pig will remain in this minuscule space for the entirety of her pregnancy. After birth, mother pigs do not get a chance to care for their babies as they naturally want to. Instead, pork producers take each litter of piglets from their mother when they're around only 3 weeks old, raising and killing them for food. This separation is not only traumatic for the mother and her babies, it's unnatural. In nature, mother pigs nurse their babies for up to 17 weeks. Then, the exploitative cycle starts again. The industry repeatedly impregnates sows, forcing them to give birth to new litters of piglets until their bodies are completely exhausted. When a sow is spent, no longer able to give birth, she goes to slaughter at only around 1.5 to 2 years old. In the wild, pigs can live up to 20 years.
Yeah, they're just babies. Babies having babies. And it's come a time where we need to, not we, me, you, but the world in general needs to stop looking at animals as things.
Yes.
They're not things.
No, they are not.
They're living, breathing, sentient beings with lives they want to live, families they want to raise, and they don't deserve what they're getting
No, absolutely not.
in any way.
And anyone who spends any amount of time around any animal, whether that be a pig or a cow or a dog or a cat or a guinea pig, knows that these are sentient beings. I mean, how can you possibly question that?
Yeah, I don't know how anybody can. And you constantly hear how pigs are one of the smartest animals in the world, that they have
The intelligence of a 3-year-old child?
Yeah, they have the intelligence of a 3-year-old child. They're very cognitively advanced as animals. And it just doesn't seem to land with people that, and I know that it's cognitive dissonance. I know it is because we weren't vegan all of our lives. And
That's right.
we spent a good portion of our lives knowing full well that animals are sentient beings.
Yes.
And we still consumed them.
Yes.
The society in general makes it easy for people to do that.
Yes, it does.
So the hard thing is to stop and think about it.
But we need to.
Yeah, we do. Everybody does.
It's the only way things have any chance of changing.
Yeah, we need to stop this insatiable need for animal products in order to stop governments and large factory farms from creating these huge animal farms
That are not only causing tremendous pain and suffering to billions of animals every year, but are having disastrous impacts on both the health of our planet and on individual and collective human health as well.
Yeah. And I guess we'll end that there.
That seems reasonable.
It's kind of bringing me down, man.
Sorry.
I don't mean to bring you down. Let's move on to something
No,
more.
I don't think that's a bring you down. I think that's a fire you up.
Yeah, I mean, it does fire me up.
So there you go.
It does. It makes me angry, you know, when I think of what's going on. It's infuriating. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I do want people to know that you're not helpless.
No, not at all.
Like I said, reach out and talk to the people that can make a difference and let them know how you feel about it, right?
And know that even in small ways, that just doing what you're doing by choosing to be vegan, by choosing to live in a thoughtful and compassionate way, you are making a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about somebody else that's making a difference.
Is it listener shout out time?
It's time for our listener shout out.
Just want to give a shout out to all my fans watching. I love you guys. I love you.
This week's listener shout out goes to Sue Chase. Sue is a fellow New Yorker and LGBTQ family member. She's vegan, an animal lover, and a subscriber to our website. Thanks for listening, Sue.
Yeah, thanks for listening, Sue. And contact us with your t-shirt size and address so we can send you a CNC swag bag. You can send us that information at our email address at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram or private message us on Facebook.
Want to get a listener shout out like Sue did today? Go ahead and send us a DM or email letting us know you listen and tell us a little bit about yourself.
That brings us to our vegan org of the week.
This week's vegan org is one that I'm personally quite fond of, and that is Vegan Outreach. Vegan Outreach is a 501c3 nonprofit organization working to end violence toward animals. They, along with us, seek a future when sentient animals are no longer exploited as commodities. They focus on reaching the people who are motivated enough to make changes now, of which there are always many who just need some guidance. Founded in 1993, they've been most known for massive outreach programs of leafleting on college campuses. At its peak, Vegan Outreach was handing booklets to over 1 million students at 1,000 schools per semester. By steadily increasing the number of vegans, they are laying the groundwork to reach a tipping point in which sweeping public policy changes for animals will become realistic. They also have a wonderful vegan mentorship program. I am currently a mentor with Vegan Outreach, and I've got to say, it's been a pretty great experience.
Yeah, you have one mentee.
I do. I have one mentee.
Yes. And I'm going to include a link where you can also get involved either by becoming a mentor or they have other ways that you can take action on their website at veganoutreach.org. I guess we're wrapping things up. It's time to wrap things up. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. I'll take it.
I think you should put that in the bloopers.
Bloopers? No, that's staying in the show.
B-roll.
No, that is a roll if I ever heard it.
All right. You're the editor.
It's time for the wrap up. As always, we encourage you to join the AFA Vegan Voter Hub and support them in any way that you can. Because the Agriculture Fairness Alliance is lobbying in D.C. on our behalf so that our vegan voices are heard. If you want to be included in the conversation, join the Voter Hub. The link is always in our show notes.
And that brings us to our signing off. You have just listened to episode 105 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. There's nothing left to say but where cukes and compassion are always the fashion on the podcast.
Thanks, James.
Have a great week, everyone.
We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
We love you.
Bye.
The end.
If you'd like to support the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, well, you can do that by hopping on over to our Patreon page and becoming a patron. We have all the recipes from our vegan kitchen series up there, and we'll be adding some patron-only episodes in the near future. So thank you for supporting us at whatever level that you choose, and thank you again for listening to Compassion and Cucumbers podcast.